Cips clips. And remember, citizens, the only way to survive and thrive. Subscribe, hit the bell. All will be well. 1995. Plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Alrighty, bib chips. Another one of trying to be a right smart arse. And stream this simultaneously over onto my other channel. Let's see if it works. Let's see if it. Anywho, I can see. Yeah. Anyway, in the afternoon, everybody. So as always, make sure if you enjoy this, get a giggle and appreciate what I do. Thumbs it up to your friends, family, foes. Be looking at both sides of the bull crap, the double barrel bull crap. So it's been Prime Minister's questions today. So I'm going to go and pop in and have a wee shifty at RT. Head of the English speaking snake when it comes to Ruski stuff. And Sputnik, I don't know, man, if he's ever tried to put up with Sputnik, it's almost impossible. So we'll be looking at RT and BBC, but be different with the BBC. I might go and have a wee, might go and look at the PMQs if the technology will allow. So might be working now. Something's happening. Boom. Okay. Good. Davo, how you doing, my man? Are you misspelling stuff or read debate? Don't read debate. My feelings can't hack it. I'm doing 2 streams at the one time here. Everything seems to be lagging a bit. Afternoon, Davo. Mate, is it Davo or Davo? Am I that stupid? Am I being an American and reading it as it's Davo, innit? Davo. Pretty sure it's Davo. I'm going to stick with Davo unless you click. Right. Like the Enterprise. Pew, 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 is going. Do you know what I might do? I might bounce straight into the PMQs. And then at the top of the hour, 2 o'clock, bounce into the old RTs. What I'm going to do. Hopefully the Illuminati wouldn't have done by then.
To escape.
It was so terrible, and my parents, I left my parents in Zoom.
Next week I'm on X Factor, please vote for
I
me!
will see them another time.
That's all we're missing. for
But in
the
the last
X
few
Factor
hours, air raid
backstories, man.
sirens have been sounding in and around Kyiv with unconfirmed reports of
No!
explosions. The Ukrainian government
A
warns
goal in the
radioactive
93rd minute
substances
just
could be
fucked my
released from
cooking.
the former nuclear power plant at Chernobyl after its electricity supply was cut. The country's energy minister said he was unclear on exactly what was happening at the site. And let's go straight now to the House of Commons for Prime Minister's questions.
We fuckers, man. Absolutely we fuckers.
To protect the people of Ukraine. And Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend,
Fuck you, man.
will be setting out more details for the House later on. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others.
Lost me
In addition
90
to my
quid.
duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Polly Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My son Ben died from an aortic dissection at age 44, leaving a wife and 2 young children, a condition which kills 2,000 people every year.
Hidden again, hidden again.
More than die on the roads. Most people do not know anything about this condition until it devastates their family, like mine. So many of these cases are preventable by identifying those at risk and early and accurate diagnosis. Would the Prime Minister commend the work of the aortic?
Davo, did you mean disc and not desk? SSL. That's... What's an SSL desk? Or did you mean disc? One of those solid state drives? I'm a technophobe nowadays, man. I'm confirmed old bastard.
Dissection Charitable Trust in working with all aspects of the patient pathway about this condition, and in particular, will he commit to public funding for research into the diagnosis of aortic dissection and into...
Right, this is a bit of a tangent, but it's worthwhile touching on, you know, just something a bit different instead of running the mill shit. Now, I'm pretty sure this woman touched on the patient pathway stuff. And if my memory serves me right, that's basically the mechanism put in place to allow people to end their own life kind of thing. I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. Alright, Rab, my man, how you doing? Afternoon. From Oz, what's a dollar get you in pounds? How many pounds does a dollar, an Australian dollar, get you? Get a better idea. Dave, as in have. It's a kind of play on Davos and Bono. You know, I was fucking kidding on the phone Bono going, what was it? Q Bono! Q Bono! Oh no. Pro Bono! Pro Bono! Instead of Q Bono. I don't even, they've even corrected me. I don't even know if anybody noticed. Solid state logic mixing disk sounds pretty cool, mate. Can you not go and pick it up for the post office?
genetic screening for it?
Prime Minister.
May I say to my honourable friend first how very sorry I am, as I'm sure the whole House is, for the loss of her son, Ben. And she's a passionate advocate for this work, and I thank the Aortic Dissection Charitable Trust. She's obviously, Mr. Speaker, completely right that accurate, fast diagnosis and treatment is crucial.
£2.
And that's why I'm very pleased that the National Institute for Health Research is...
Right, so $1 is about £2. So you're talking, what the fuck? So it's like 4 fucking quid. Over £4 a litre. Well, over here, and I'm no expert, right? But apparently there's in places, It's touching about £2 a litre, I've heard. Craig Houston, as in, no, is your brother. China. So China just said it has over 300 biolabs in 30 countries. Doesn't surprise me.
Further work in this area, and my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Health, will meet her at his earliest convenience.
Now comes the Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The typical energy bill is going up by £700 next month, and that's because of pressures before Russia invaded.
Leader of the Labour Party, ladies and gentlemen.
A forced £200 loan for every household.
Can't even talk. He's got so many fucking money bags in his cheeks, he can't even talk through his nose.
Was that energy costs would drop quickly after a short spike. That bet now looks certain to fail. When will the Prime Minister force the Chancellor into a U-turn?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend, the Chancellor, has set out plans to help families with energy costs, with unprecedented measures to abate council tax by £150, Mr. Speaker, in addition to all the other schemes that we are putting forward. And I can tell the House that, yes, he's absolutely right that we need to meet
renationalise it, man.
Impacts of the spike in energy prices, and that's why I will be setting out an energy independence plan for this country, Mr. Speaker, in the course of the...
Right, see, if I was dictator, right, what I would do is I would set out to, like in my manifesto, I'd say to the country, what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow you to vote on individual services, and you can either vote for them to remain private or bring them into public ownership.
I don't think the Prime Minister understands the mess he's in. Working families
From this, man, it's punching Judy bullshit in it, man. There's nothing real going on. See her on the right, though, by the way. She's about the only good-looking, the better look woman in politics. Yeah. List my place there. Anyway, what I would do is I would put to the public a vote and break it down. Gas, electric, water, health, the services, right? Whether you want to bring them into public ownership or for them to remain in private ownership. Now, for me, I would be voting to bring things that there's a monopoly on, right? You can't get good electricity and bad electricity. You know, you can't go to one company and get fucking, oh, I've got premium electricity, my lights are going to glow extra white tonight. You know, you can't get different water, can't get different gas. There's no competition to be had there. The competition that's there has been invented. And the competition is to who can offer the best fucking advert during Coronation Street. So for me, I would bring that back into public ownership. Trains, another one. Right, there's no competition to be had there. There's only one set of fucking train fucking tracks. Oh man, if you go and look how they've traded, like there's companies making money off of the train services, while at the same time the public is subsidising the trains. Unfucking believable. Oh, it's almost as bad as, what do you call it, tax credits. You know, take the money off you, and then if you jump in one leg and cluck like a chicken long enough, you can get a wee bit back. Just don't take it off me in the fucking first place, you fucking prick. Cut out the bureaucracy. Anyway.
which I think, by the way, Mr. Speaker, they are doing very responsibly at the moment, and that is divesting from dependence on Russian oil and gas. And that is the way forward for this country. It is to take a sober, responsible approach, end our dependence on hydrocarbons altogether, and particularly Russian hydrocarbons. And we are taking steps to rectify some of the mistakes made by the Labour government and have a long-term, sustainable...
Oh my God, how pathetic. Punch and Judy. It wasn't us, it was them.
Protecting
And the other
profits,
side do
not working
exactly the
people.
same.
Doesn't that say it all? Britain can't afford another crisis like this. We need to improve our long-term energy security. That starts with supporting new nuclear and renewables. But the Conservatives have effectively banned new onshore wind.
Dave, I've
As a
no
direct
seen...
result of this short-sighted
I've
approach,
not seen your
we're
videos
using
about
more
Bono,
gas every
mate,
year
no.
than we
I need to
import
check
from
him
Russia.
out.
That's ludicrous. So will the Prime Minister relax planning laws, end the block on onshore wind, and stop supporting policies that make us so dependent
Oh,
on
look at the
foreign gas?
virtue signalling fucking douchebags with their wee Ukrainian fucking
It's thanks to
flags.
the policies that this government has pursued that we
Bet you if
actually
you
only
fucking
are
scanty
dependent
them.
on, Russian gas for 3%.
See if a kid done that in school nowadays, they'd probably get done for sexual assault. You know, I remember back in the day, man, the best prank you could get when somebody was creeping up behind them and scanting them was called up here. I think kids done that nowadays, man. They would fucking send in fucking the A-team of fucking
this may be news to some of his party,
social work
but he just
department.
committed to supporting more nuclear power.
big BA brackets, big tits. In the afternoon, punk.
Joy in heaven, Mr. Speaker. There is more joy in heaven over one sinner that repenteth, Mr. Speaker, than over 100. I'm delighted. And those were the people, Mr. Speaker, who...
I heard a rumour, my mate Dangerous Dave. I don't have gas, by the way. I just have electricity. But I heard my mate Dangerous Dave, you people that used to take the gas meter out, turn it
Come
around.
off it. Labour is pro-nuclear. This Prime Minister can't get a single brick laid of a new nuclear plant. Energy security isn't just about supply, it's also about reducing demand. Our housing stock is the
How
least
long ago,
efficient
man?
in Europe. That's why Labour set out a plan to upgrade the
I know
19
everybody
million
waits their
British
knickers
homes
when
that
it comes to
desperately need
nuclear,
it
but
within a decade.
if you want to be green,
Saving
it's the way
families
ahead, man. It's the
£400
only
on
way
their energy
ahead.
bill and
It's the only
cutting
technology
UK
we've
gas
got right
imports by
now to fucking
15%.
fill the hole.
Whereas all the government have is a failed policy. Taking all their announcements together, it will take 75 years to deliver the upgrades that we need. That's a lifetime when we need urgent action. When is the
Is that
Prime
them talking
Minister
about
gonna
liquid
get on with
fucking
it?
liquefied gas and shit?
Mr. Speaker, I just remind the
who's
House
that?
that
Pair of legs coming for?
the Labour government, our nuclear output fell from, I think, about
not often you get a nice pair of
25%,
legs in
to
Parliament.
about 10% of our energy needs. As I recall, it was because of the decisions that they took. We're now going to rectify it, Mr. Speaker.
Kamala
and we're helping
Harris.
households. He asked about the cost of energy bills. We're helping households with the cost of energy bills to the tune of £9.1 billion. Now, why can this
in the
government afford
afternoon.
to do that? Why can we afford to put huge quantities of taxpayers' money into supporting households and their energy costs? I'll tell you why, Mr. Speaker. It's because we got the fastest growth in the G7.
Because we're good and they're not. We're big, they're small. My daddy will batter their daddy.
And we'd have never achieved it, Mr. Speaker.
See? Fucking you.
12 years in power, that's the best he can do. The
Fuck me, honestly, man. Is nobody like opened their eyes to the fact that we've got a toff, a fucking sir? He's had the fucking Queen's dick at his fucking neck. Walloped either side of him, helicoptered.
We can withstand those costs, and we must, by using a windfall tax to keep bills down for working people.
Woohoo!
By starting a new era
Tax!
of energy policy, never again at the mercy of a dictator. supporting new nuclear after years of neglect, sprinting on renewables, including onshore wind, and an urgent national mission to upgrade.
I want to see what the wee old potty next to him is wearing.
So why is the Prime Minister offering
You're a
the same
politician, you know
failed
what I mean?
energy policy that cast us into the security crisis and allowed bills to rocket?
Mr. Speaker,
Sorry, Prime Minister. I want to hear the answer, but also standing up's not going to catch
You
my eye. In fact,
bagum.
it's got the opposite effect on me. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we are junking is the failed energy policies that left us without enough nuclear power, Mr. Speaker. And what we are going to do is go forward with policies that allow this country to be independent in our energy supply, maximising renewables, Mr. Speaker, making sure that we use transitional hydrocarbons and going for nuclear as well. As I say, I'm overjoyed that Labour now seems to occupy that position. But what we will also do, Mr. Speaker, and here he has been supportive, is make sure that as a House of Commons we work together to maintain our opposition to Vladimir Putin's vile war in Ukraine. And that, together with the toughest possible economic sanctions, by maintaining our military support for the people of Ukraine. I have no doubt that though there will be dark days ahead and difficult times, Mr. Speaker, we will come through it.
Is it a sign of the times?
Vladimir Putin will fail
to
succeed in restoring a sovereign.
The way that the media, people in the media, the TV channels, the journalists are reacting to this war, because it's no previous war has had this reaction in the press. You know, everybody's just full on, hard on virtue signaling as hard as they can. You know, like cancelling Russia, like fucking, you can't have a Russian football player, a Russian owner. You can, just like this has never happened. Even like during the Iraq war and all that, they weren't like bouncing around the UK, rounding up fucking Iraqis and fucking going like, here, get to fuck. Do you know what I mean? Is this something weird going on here? Is it a sign of the times, or is this like a real, like, sort of a line in the sand, let's say, moment? Is this like them both pushing each other? Is this like ultimate brinkmanship? Ultimate game of chicken?
14 days into Putin's war.
Shut up, you fat Scottish fucking tramp.
With the UK government, and I will continue to seek to do this. However,
I will continue to tell everybody how to live their life, and that they can fucking just declare what fucking genitalia they have when they wake up and have their sugar puffs. Yes, I am the honey monster today. Yes, what I identify with. And I'm such a fat, look at me, I'm the picture of health. I'm not a fat fuck. Clearly, I am a picture of health, and I am in a position to tell everybody how to live their life. And I've got the moral high ground because I haven't got big fat fucking hamster cheeks and about 10 million fucking chins.
to find it acceptable that his Home Secretary has overseen one of the slowest, most bureaucratic and incompetent refugee responses in the whole of Europe.
Oh my god, now they're arguing about who can pamper the refugees the most. Fuck me.
Welcome them, and that is indeed what we are doing, and the numbers are almost 1,000 as I speak to him today, and they will rise very sharply, Mr. Speaker. They are uncapped. We expect those numbers to rise to in the region of the hundreds of thousands. As Vladimir Putin doubles down in his attacks, we will go further, Mr. Speaker, and there will be routes by which the whole country can offer a welcome to people from Ukraine, vulnerable people fleeing from Ukraine. And my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, will be setting out that route in the course of the next few days. This government has a proud, proud record. We've done more to resettle vulnerable people than any other European country since 2015.
Here, Blackford.
I don't think the Prime Minister understands the scale of the challenge or the urgency. These are people fleeing war crimes, torn apart from their families as their homes are shelled, and the Home Secretary is blocking them with endless paperwork. This isn't just incompetence, this is ideology. In the face of the biggest refugee crisis in Europe since the Second World War, the UK government won't set
Does anybody
aside
notice the
hostile
marked
environment.
difference?
By we're seeing
The way this
hostile
is getting
environment
treated,
start to
discussed,
quiet down a bit.
dealt
We've
with,
seen this too many times.
as opposed to the brown people in boats.
The Windrush scandal, the go-home vans, the inhumane nationality and borders.
They're basically calling for anybody with blonde hair and blue eyes with an East European accent to be fucking... Don't, no visas, no nothing, come on in, we'll give you a family.
Offer sanctuary and refuge. So will the Prime Minister join with the rest of the European continent and waive the visa
Fat
restrictions
shooter.
for refugees fleeing war in Ukraine?
I understand your patter, Rab.
This country has an unparalleled record. And look, just since I have been Prime Minister, look at the numbers.
The SNP motherfuckers are a bunch of fucking Mel Gibson blowjobbing, Braveheart loving fucking fandans.
Any other. The Prime Minister, the
Opportunists.
Deputy Prime Minister, the Home Secretary are directly descended, Mr. Speaker, from...
Fucking, I don't know, are the SNP the first ever political party in the world that built their whole fucking shit on a fucking Hollywood film?
Refugees, and we will be generous, and we are being generous, Mr. Speaker. And what we are doing is making sure that in those neighbouring countries, the UK is out in front, giving the humanitarian assistance, and we are in every capital, Mr. Speaker. They laugh, Mr. Speaker, they mock, they scoff. This country is leading in every respect, but we are also the single biggest donor of humanitarian aid to the Ukraine war zone, Mr. Speaker. The single biggest donor, and he should be proud of that.
Julian Smith. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I commend the Prime Minister's response to this Ukrainian crisis, but I think people across the country are genuinely concerned on our response on refugees, on the bureaucracy, on the tone of our response. He's shown with vaccines that government...
I mean, come on, these people are white.
Please, can I
They should just be welcomed in and given families and all that.
taking control of a more humane approach.
No refugee centres for these white people, come on! Get with the programme!
I hope, I thank him very much. I thank him for all the work that he
Fucking
does.
scandalous, this shit, man.
What I've just said in my earlier answer to the leader of the SNP, which is, Mr. Speaker, that this government is, I think, unlike any other in our understanding of what refugees can give and the benefits to this country. And we want, we've done more than any other to resettle vulnerable people since 2015. I think that there is a huge opportunity now for us to do even more, and that's why my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, will be setting out a route by which the British people, not just the family reunion route, which can run into the hundreds of thousands, Mr. Speaker, but also a route by which everybody in this country can offer a home to people fleeing Ukraine. And
yes! Open your doors, bitches! Hey, Bobo, Hank, you should go first, mate. You get more rooms than me, you fucking fat prick.
Including in Northern Ireland, with the rapid increase in the cost of heating homes and running a motor vehicle. Heating a home has more than doubled for many households in Northern Ireland in recent weeks. Will the Prime Minister commit to bring forward a package of measures designed to help households, including a cut in VAT on home heating fuel, reducing or cutting excise duty on fuel for motorists? And will he ensure that those measures apply to Northern Ireland, where the Northern Ireland Protocol once again presents a problem in this government taking control over the affairs of all of the United Kingdom? Will the decisions that the Treasury take apply to the whole of the United Kingdom?
Nope, just Great Britain, motherfucker. You've been screwed in Brexit.
Northern Ireland, and we've already extended a further $250 million to help the people of Northern Ireland with the costs of living.
Get on the phone to Jim Dawson, man.
As he knows,
Cause a wee rammy.
Fuel has been frozen for the last 12 years, and we will ensure that the people of Northern Ireland continue to be protected, along with everybody in the UK, from the cost of living crisis. But there should
Yeah, that's half an hour. Alright. You get the main ones at the start, and maybe dip into the BBC News afterwards and get the highlights. In the meantime, but be doable. Doable. Going underground. Right. Oh.
When all truths seem wrong, when all rules fail.
I love the way they position themselves as like a pure
Biological research.
It's Alex Jones, like
United States.
The resistance.
Russia urges the United States to disclose
Roberto.
materials on its biological research programs. That's as Washington admits Ukraine possesses related facilities. Russia says it has taken over Europe's largest nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine.
Woohoo! Nuclear!
That's
one for nuclear.
Stored at the plant, but unused by the Ukrainian army.
Have crates and crates
World War II. We're looking for World War II stroke Hitler references.
As well as grenade launchers, ammunition of all sorts and types also.
While Ukraine confirms 6 humanitarian corridors are now in operation, Donbass officials say they're not working properly. President Zelensky insists every effort will be made.
That Dave, it's always the exact same, mate. And no, believe it or believe it not, I believe that's the perception with a lot of people, but I don't believe that's the reality. You know, they've always got this money for a rainy day stashed away somewhere, and can always print money and pull money out their arsehole and always borrow money, so on and so forth. So it's not always the case of just giving all the money to our own and not anybody else. I think I used to be naive to think that foreign aid was all about aid. It's a lot more than that. It's a lot deeper. It's like bribery and corruption, isn't it? If you're feeding somebody, you know, it's not only that, like a lot of these NGOs and stuff, I don't know if you remember, I can't remember how many years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, a lot of the NGOs were kicked out of Russia. Now, Russia didn't do it because they were against these NGOs feeding their population and all the charity they were doing and all that. It's because it became blatantly obvious that the NGOs were pretty much like a bunch of spooks bouncing about, either intelligence gathering, manipulating, fucking stirring up shit in the population, so on and so forth. And that became self-evident. Pretty much how the Russians funded quite a lot of the anti-fracking shit over in this country. And a lot of the people that were involved in organising and all that were encouraged with certain people that were fucking under the table financing them and stuff, and they didn't, they thought they were doing good. They might have been doing good. Captain Planet would be proud of them. I'm a bit more, I'm sceptical about the skeptics. I'm sceptical with the spectacles about the skeptics. I'm called skeptics. And I think there was more to the anti-fracking movement than what met the and like, oh, the Captain Planet's very persuasive, man.
Made to ensure safe evacuation and the delivery of aid.
Woohoo! Humanitarian corridors! It's not a killing field!
Diplomat rejects an immediate ban on energy imports from Russia, saying it might ground the whole country to a halt.
Oh, come on, tell us about the Big Macs. Tell us about the Big Macs.
On European households. You're watching on.
Did she say European assholes? Pretty sure she said European assholes. In the afternoon, Mac.
You're watching RT International. My name's Paula Sleer, and wherever you are joining us from, welcome to the programme.
Oh, Mac, that's a brilliant idea, mate. I don't know if you've heard. The Queen's moving out of Buckingham Palace. She's moving to somewhere else, one of her country homes or something. Well, Buckingham Palace gets its makeover and shit. It's not that she's dying and she wants to die comfortably. It's wherever Prince fucking Philip was buried. It's in the tip of my tongue, I can't remember. So the whole of Buckingham Palace is free right now, man. So we can fill that up with a good few fucking Ukrainians. I say we put... I was going to say we should put the Nazi battalion in there. But that would be swapping one bunch of Nazis for another. Boom, boom, boom. And anybody want to know what I mean by that reference? It's the pictures of the Queen doing Zikal. It's a little girl. Little innocent girl. Zikal. You would think she was fucking living up in Scotland in modern day times under the SNP in Sturgeon.
But first, let's have a look at the latest major developments on the situation in Ukraine.
Oh, she's got another spook accent.
Humanitarian corridors have been opened to ensure safe evacuation of
Seems
civilians.
like a Russian robot or something, man.
Routes. But the head of the Donetsk Republic warns nationalists are still trying to stop people from leaving. It comes as Russia's military gains access to secret documents apparently showing Kiev planned a major offensive on the breakaway eastern regions.
Oh, did they find a passport of Bin Laden as well?
Region, now under Russia's control. And Europe's largest nuclear power plant, also controlled by Russian forces, is continuing its work. Despite attempts to reduce its energy dependence, the EU's foreign policy chief says the bloc won't ban Russian fuel imports, even if the US is doing so. Further details coming up.
I mean, they won't. They can't.
Ukraine has confirmed the operation of 6 humanitarian corridors on its territory, as well as the establishment of a ceasefire on evacuation routes. President Vladimir Zelensky says Kiev will put all effort into making sure humanitarian corridors work properly. However, military officials in the Donetsk People's Republic say that evacuation routes in the south of Ukraine are not...
I think Putler done this at this time because he knew that at this present moment in time, Europe's still so cold it can't afford to turn off the gas.
Earlier, Moscow and Kiev agreed
maybe during the summer, the height of summer, places might be a bit more willing to go, fuck you. As I said, I think I can remember seeing the numbers getting broke down and the UK could weather the storm kind of thing. We're in the high 90s, I think, or the mid 90s of being self-sufficient.
And essential products to residents in the Kharkov region. Humanitarian aid has been sent to regions now under the control of Russian troops. According to Russia's emergency ministry, the country has sent 430 tons of essential goods to Ukraine and Donbas residents.
See, Russia loves you, baby.
Russia has urged the US to dissolve materials on Ukraine's biological program. That's as the US Undersecretary of State admitted there are research facilities there when asked whether Kiev possesses biological weapons.
Does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities. We are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those.
Maybe we might be lucky in getting a new variant of COVID and they can resurrect that shit.
They approach.
And the soldiers will need to wear masks while we're shooting at each other.
Thank you very much for joining us here in the studio. What do you know so far?
That would be funny.
Paula, hi there. Well, we are talking about potentially a very dangerous situation with these pathogens and, again, deadly diseases that are being mentioned by the Russian
What
Ministry
is
of
it with
Defense.
English-speaking Russians? They sound like fucking robots, man.
Diseases such as cholera, such as anthrax, such as
I think
plague.
they're free Terminator. I think they've came back
Documents
came back for the
by
future.
the Russian army when
Using
the offensive
Soviet technology.
began, there was an order by the
Maybe
Ukrainian
Command and Conquer.
government to emerge and somehow destroy these pathogens. Sorry, in these labs. We don't know how many exactly there were on Ukrainian territory, or perhaps still are. Some say that there are only a few, or there could be dozens. But we understand that on the one hand, Kiev is denying that it has any of these biolabs. But then, just like we heard from Victoria Nuland, there are some kind of facilities which makes the situation even worse for Ukraine at this point, because we don't know whether these pathogens have been destroyed or not. And that's why the Russian side
so they're using that as
is currently demanding
more than a
explanation,
human
not only
shield.
from Kiev, but mainly from the US.
The US Department of Defense and Administration must, as soon as possible, familiarize the international community with the programs conducted in Ukraine and do that officially. We believe that the materials existing now and the confirmations coming from both Ukraine and the US do not get washed.
Oh, they're using all the old playbooks, man. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that they were calling Assad Hitler.
That is a demanding explanation from
His gas chambers must be going fucking well, man, because I don't know, man, he's still in power. I don't hear much about him anymore. He's just ignored, even though he was Hitler at one point, according to the same pricks that are telling us Putler is
we're
Putler.
talking about some very dangerous substances potentially ending up in the hands of Ukraine's nationalists. And this is what we heard from Chinese officials on that particular matter.
Do you know what the Western media are using as a kind of an excuse to right, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. There obviously appears to be neo-Nazi battalions.
So right now, like I said, there
I
are
would say
two
that
very important aspects to this.
having first-hand experience of a country very close to that in Poland,
or not.
men with neo-Nazi
how many labs
idiocracies
were in existence, if they were. Again, Kiev like I
exist,
said, is denying the existence of
and they all like to play army and all that,
but
because you've still
also
got national service and conscription and tunnels of shit over there. And
officials, we hope that
about the ex-Soviet Union, they have a different kind of mindset than us pussies over here in the West have had for the last 40 years or
run
whatever.
by the US. And again, it's all happening
But
on the territory where
there'll be a wee small section that are just getting used by the army.
And as you correctly said,
And
we've been
not
waiting
like
for
in
response
charge
from
or
the US
anything
already
like
for a
that,
couple of days, so let's just hope that that
obviously
comes
they've got their
soon.
domain
Ian
and
Petrenko, thank you very much for
whatnot,
joining me here
because
in the studio.
Ukraine's massive and parts of
Well, Russian forces
lawlessness.
say they've gained full control of the Zaporozhskaya nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine, adding that the factory and the staff continue to operate as normal. RT's Murat Gazdiev visited the site and brought us this exclusive report.
On the 4th of March, 4 days after Russia announced the takeover,
Oh, right, here's the event
the world awoke to terrifying images
that made everybody wet their knickers.
in Energodar. This building, or rather what happened to it, is what caused so much fear internationally about potentially a new nuclear incident in Ukraine. We're at the Zaporozhskaya nuclear power station, the biggest nuclear power station in Europe. Reactor number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 over there in the distance. This was the site of a pitched battle between Russian troops who were on site and who they say were Ukrainian infiltrators who penetrated this building on the outskirts of the reactor complex itself. And there was a
He said
pitched
it was a
battle,
training thing, didn't
when
he?
they retreated. These are the outskirts of the nuclear power station. They allegedly set fire to the building. The worry was that this was the training center. According to IAEA rules, every nuclear power station must have a training complex with a mock reactor.
Well, Mac, the good thing about this shit, right, is they've got this dude floating about with a camera, right? And I'm pretty sure if you put that into Google Earth, you'll probably get enough detail to sort of get an idea whether he is where he says he is.
The station was left on the verge
That's what's good about that. But that's why he's doing that sort of a footage and got all the drone footage and all that. Remember, propaganda doesn't need to be lies.
Had followed their orders.
After we took the plant under control, we found a huge stash of weapons and ammunition, including heavy weaponry. We even found ammunition on top of reactor facilities.
If Hitler was alive today, all he would do is need to copyright his name, and he would make enough money. Just like the guy that copyrighted Happy Birthday. He'd just need to copyright his name, and he'd have enough money to take over the world again.
Filled to the brim with weapons seized from Ukrainian National Guards.
Find yourself some fucking toilet roll and blow your nose, you prick.
Russian troops who have taken over the facility. You can find here all sorts of firearms. This is American M4 rifle clone, locally made, called the Ukrop. You have crates stacked with assault rifles, Kalashnikov rifles, as well as grenade launchers, ammunition of all sorts.
Nothing quite says a nuclear power station to me than crates of fucking guns and ammunition.
Defend this nuclear power station to the last drop of blood. Evidently,
they
surrendered to Russian forces and have been let go. They're now with their families.
Cool, and there's like grenades and everything, man.
That they wouldn't participate in any more fighting. Again, rocket-propelled grenades, ammunition seized from around the facility, cabinets.
Oh, look, there's a mannequin. Oh, the mannequin's moving. Oh, no, it's the Russian army.
States. Here is a rocket-propelled grenade launcher, and it says here, Spring Branch, Texas. So this was evidently manufactured in the United States.
Houston, Texas.
At this point, the nuclear power station is secure.
Oh my god, look, it's almost as bad as Parkhead. It's made out of breeze blocks.
Running and
look at the state of that. It's made out of breeze blocks.
Electrical power needs. While the complex is secure,
the
workers aren't. They're afraid of the fighting.
That's a pretty cool shot, man.
Them and their families, many of which live in areas controlled by Ukrainian nationalists and radicals. They were warned, work together with the Russians and you'll pay. Yet, here they are, bound by duty to keep Europe's largest nuclear power plant operational and, above all, safe.
Now, the Russian military has
See, it wouldn't be hard to verify he was where he says he was. I don't think.
Eastern Donbas regions were planned by Kiev. That's according to the Russian Ministry of Defense.
So the gun shop in Grand Theft Auto 4.
Communicated to the command unit of the National Guard of Ukraine details the plan for preparing one of the battle groups for offensive operations in the zone of the so-called Joint Forces operation in the Donbass. The document contains the original signatures of the officials.
He looks like he should be in the military, doesn't he? He looks like fucking Hank Hill or something, man.
Now, for
King of the Hill.
We are joined live by our correspondent Roman Kosarov. Roman, that's certainly an interesting discovery by the Russian military.
Kosarov.
That the offensive was apparently planned for March. What do we know so far?
Well, according to the 6 pages released by...
See, he sounds like a robot as well, man. What is it with these Russians? Are they really robots?
Was actually planning to launch a major offensive against
the question.
And Lugansk People's Republic sometime in March. Now, Russian Defense Ministry says that the documents prove that Ukraine's National Guard were planning to deploy troops trained by American and British instructors, and they mentioned a NATO standard training program that's been underway in the western city of Lvov in Ukraine since 2016. Now, members of Ukraine's National Guard have been accused of committing war crimes.
Cough, mate.
Azov battalions, and there were some of the people supposed to take part in this operation. Now, the documents released
This
by the
robot,
Russian Defense
cough, you
Ministry,
robot.
now, if they're actually true, they show that the commander of the National Guard knew that not everyone was up to the task of that offensive, and he stressed in these documents the need to screen soldiers based on their mental state, including...
Dave, I know you can't believe everything what you see, right? But here's a few things that nobody's really denying. Russia are invading Ukraine. That power station is in Ukraine. Both sides have reported there being a fight there. The guy's walking about something which looks identical to the place where both sides, who are at each other's throats, calling each other all sorts of names and countering each other's bullcrap at every fucking turn. But they both agree there was a conflict there. And he's walking around there pointing at a building that was on fire, that there was video footage for a couple of nights ago, that the other side, do you know what I mean, mate? Like, I know what you're talking about, but you can't just fall down a fucking rabbit hole of paranoia and just fucking start thinking everything's a green screen. Yeah, my birth, it was just a fucking, do you know what I mean? It's like, you need to get a grip of reality at some point and make sure you don't start thinking fake snow in Nibiru again. But hey, who am I? Maybe fake snow in Nibiru is real.
Guard of Ukraine clearly proved the falsity of these statements.
Make square fucking heads.
In Donbass for the last 8 years, and
they're robots, Roberto. I'm telling you, listen to them.
Including women, children, and the elderly.
That guy should get a job as a voiceover for a Transformer.
Were killed in Donbass. Now, people there
he would make a good
operation against
Transformer, wouldn't he?
Will finally end their 8 years of suffering.
Like
well, I think that's the hope that
Megatron,
many people share.
Megatron,
Megadeth,
Megatron.
Thank you very much.
Megatron's second in command.
Well, as Roman described, there are shocking scenes that he saw in the Donbas region himself. Here's a look at how people in the Donetsk and Lugansk republics have been suffering for 8 years.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Here's the package. RT, yep. We need you to put a package together that justifies the invasion. Thank you very much. Okay. Optimus. Russia computes.
У нас діти підуть до школи, до дитячих садків. У них вони будуть сидіти в підвалах.
Oh man. Oh, they're blowing up fucking kindergartens and schools again, the bastards. How come in war it's always the kindergarten and schools that get it? I just don't understand. Oh my fucking lord, I'm about to wet my knickers just with the fucking background music alone, man. Fuck me, man. Come on, shows, but come on, a wee bit of death and destruction. Still got the pure horrible music. Honestly, it's just, it's too tragic. Catch you later, Dave. Good luck with your desk. Tell me how many days it takes you to build it.
Through the new punitive measures that are being introduced.
Well, the EU hasn't outlined exactly what it's going to do. We know that the new sanctions will be formally adopted this week when EU leaders meet just outside of Paris in Versailles.
Our accent got her the gigs.
The widening
Fucking
sanctions won't
look
just
at her
hit Russia, they're also
name,
going
though.
to hit neighbouring country
Whiskey.
Belarus. Now, the new measures we know will include 3 Belarus banks being excluded from the SWIFT international payment system, and we understand that it's going
She's
to
one of
add
these
more
annoying
Russian
people on
oligarchs to that list.
TV
Now,
that
it comes on top of the
overpronounce
European Commission
you.
announcing just in the last few days that it wants to reduce dependency
Decepticons!
on Russian gas,
That's it, Roberto, man. I fucking
oil
was
as
fucked up.
well.
I couldn't remember that shit, man.
From Russia by around
How did I forget
by
that?
the end of this year. The Commission, though, not taking an equal stance as seen in the UK and the US, which have said that they are going to outright ban them. Why? Well, as you mentioned there, quite simply, the EU generally, as well as some countries in particular, are really heavily reliant on Russian energy sources to keep the lights on. It's really that simple. Germany's foreign minister is very clear that an immediate ban on
What
EU
country did I
gas
hear
and
had
oil
about
imports from Russia
40%
could
something?
actually be massively problematic.
Italy? Italy's really
fuel comes from
dependent.
Russia. If we stop it now, in a few days we won't be able to transport ourselves.
Meanwhile, we've also been hearing from the CEO, this is the boss at energy company ENGIE here in France, who has said that a euro crisis is actually now needed to respond to the soaring prices that people are seeing across the continent, if not worldwide. And that's to contain what she said.
Mate, I think it's easier to bomb out the building and kill a few Ukrainians with a fucking army that you've got on hand, on tap, that's invading a country, than it is to build a big massive set that looks identical to fucking the biggest power station in Europe, just so a RT guy that can't blow his fucking nose can walk through it and go, oh look, we found some guns. Mate, cost benefit analysis, man. That's just the way my head works. But you may be right, mate. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm naive to think there was actually armies shooting at each other at the largest power station in Europe. It's known about, it's in Ukraine, nobody's denying there's an invasion going on and the sides are fighting each other.
It's simply impossible for us. Prices have already risen too
high.
Well,
that seems to be European-wide.
It's a worldwide crisis. It's going to pose
a worldwide,
sorry,
on
an
sorry,
international
mate.
level.
I
think it's something that different states, different countries, must really take into consideration, particularly regarding renewable energy sources for electricity, as well as hybrid cars and also salaries.
If the war doesn't stop, and with the consequences thereafter, there'll be other increases in all areas, not just fuel. The sanctions won't help. It's become an unsustainable situation. I'm really struggling to pay bills as prices for electricity and gas are increasing. Gas supplies for Europe should have no connection with what is happening in Ukraine.
And it's not just that price at the pub or the
well,
price
it does for obvious reasons. Like, that's getting used as a way of putting pressure under the normal citizens to put pressure under the governments. Just like the same way that the UK, the UK, Europe, America, etc., 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 are all fucking cancelling Russia. McDonald's is now pulling out. They've been browbeat enough to fucking be temporarily suspending fucking Big Macs in Russia. News in. Fat Russians have already lost £2.
Inflation we're seeing as a result of this war, then that just may mean that households will not be able to deal very well with these higher costs.
Punk, you make a really good point there, right? And you know I come out of things with fucking out of left field.
Charlotte Dubinsky, thank you very much.
And see what you're saying there, I 110% agree. But is the question not what came first, the chicken or the egg, if you get me? Right, is this what's happening now? Right, some would be say, especially with the rise of China, the shit that's going on right now, the flux, the proxy wars that's happening left, right and centre. Syria was the most obvious one that I was aware of, and now in Ukraine. Is this, was the green agenda not part of trying to put the kibosh on less developed economies from developing?
Russian content cannot be monetized.
So, yeah, you're right, there is a big push, or a perceived push towards the green agenda because of all this energy for Russia shite. Maybe it's maybe put us in on it, who knows. But what came first? Is this no like a consequence of this whole fucking shifting power? And I'm not saying it is, I'm throwing out questions, man. That's where my head's at, questioning, you know. Because for some time I've looked at this the green agenda, and it's no made sense. Do you know what I mean? And like, it's just apply some spot logic to it, and it didn't make sense. And the only thing that made sense to me, it was like powerful entities scared of rising entities from the likes of India and Russia and especially China, overtaking them, coming out of communist country. They're going to have cheaper and better, more reliable labour, which makes them more competitive, which blows the fucking Western competitors out the water. China, years ago, about 15 years ago, I think, 10, 15 years ago, China was projected to be the biggest economy in the world by 2050. I don't know about you, but like, I can only imagine if I was a fat cat sitting in my big pile of fucking gold and somebody came along and went like, Mr. Wang's going to fucking take over your shit by 2050, I would do everything in my power to make sure that Mr. Wang couldn't take over my shit and keep them in the box. And that might include trying to fucking like kinda pay, because if you control somebody's carbon output, you control their whole fucking economy. Never mind their fucking money and their monetary system. You actually control their ability to produce shit. And that's very important, especially if you're trying to put a kibosh on a successful communist or quasi-communist state. Again, I'm just fucking thinking a wee bit fucking weird, man.
Not in Moscow, but in Silicon Valley. Caleb Maupin, New York.
Well, that's a wrap for this hour. My name's Paula Sleer, and I'll be back again in 30 minutes with the latest. Thanks for joining us.
Fuck's sake. Roberto. Do you not get some sort of a pass being a resident or some shit, mate? Or do you still need to fucking hop in one leg and cluck like a chicken to fucking be able to use your car in fucking London? You know what you should do, mate? Get yourself one of those wee mopeds and just fucking drive away for the cops, man. Stay off the radar.
The Western liberal world order
Evil Knievel fucking style, mate.
to maintain and expand. The conflict in Ukraine is a proxy war. The real target is Russia and indirectly China. The law of unintended consequences is in play. In the end, it will
Oh my god, I sound like fucking a wee specky cunt off of Russia Today, man. That's fucking no good. The ULEZ, what's that rap? It's a racket. I have to travel to London. It's actually cheaper to pay it than get the train. Oh, the zone thingy. $12 a day, man. Even for London, that's fucking steep, do you know what I mean? Surely you must get some sort of a pass discount or some shit for staying in the middle of it, mate, or in it. You would hope. Hey, come on, Russia Today. Look at, like, they're only getting 70 odd people watching, man. People don't know how to use a VPN, but pain in the arse. Ultra low emissions on, cheers, Rab. Oh well, mate. Don't worry, Five, you won't be alone for
watching Going Underground as the US House Committee holds
oh, there we go. All done. Oh, fuck's sake. Look, she's going to be releasing a single in fucking for Christmas in the UK. Simon Cowell's going to sign her.
But the country's
All
foreign minister
I
extends
want
those
for
calls for a
Christmas.
ceasefire to Chernobyl after the former nuclear power plant's electricity supply was cut. Shelling and fighting is continuing in some
That's ironic, isn't it? Cutting the electricity to Chernobyl.
areas, but Ukraine claims Russia's
Plug it into the air.
US rejects an offer by Poland to send all of its Russian-made MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine via US.
That's strange. Something weird. There's something going on there that we don't. It's hard to
Saying it
understand.
would raise serious concerns for NATO. Ukraine's UK ambassador urges for the temporary easing of visa rules to allow refugees to get out of the country
faster. Come on in, Dimitri. What could possibly go wrong?
The US has declared economic war on Russia following bans on the imports of oil.
Yeah, Russia. So the US has declared economic war. According to the BBC. Well, that's just beautiful. Biden must have actually woke up for his cornflakes for a fucking
to our viewers
change, man.
in the UK and around the world. I'm Yalda Hakim in Ukraine's western city of Lviv, and it's been 14 days since this conflict began, and in the last 2 weeks, more than 2 million people have been displaced as a result of this war. Now, in the last 24 hours, there have been some positive developments with some humanitarian corridors that have opened up in certain areas where the fighting was most intense. Let's just show you this map to give you a better sense of where that was taking place. Here in solid red, which are under Russian military control, the striped areas show Russian advances. Some 7,000 people were evacuated from the city of Sumy in the northeast yesterday. The city has seen fierce Russian bombardment for days. Russian state media said humanitarian routes will also be set up for Kiev, the capital, Chernihiv, Kharkiv and Mariupol. Ukraine's foreign minister has called on Russia to agree to a ceasefire to allow for urgent repairs to be made to the former nuclear plant at Chernobyl. It lost its power supply following the site's seizure by Russian troops.
I need to get a new mouse. I want to hear something funny. See all this talk of Kiev or Kiev? I genuinely bought some chicken Kievs the other day. Right, it was a hard call. Ooh, fuck. It was a hard call. I was going to go for the Tesco finest with the wild garlic, but then I went for the Council Special Bernard Matthews mini Kievs. Anyway, that's enough about chicken Kievs. Chicken Kievs! Oh my god, man. Honestly, we're staying in a parallel universe, right? This is the parallel universe in which we stay. Where's the playing piano? Is it? Hmm. Here. This is the president of the United of Ukraine, and like, sorry to be pedantic, but it's not the Ukraine. There's nothing there about it. It's Ukraine. That guy is Ukrainian, not the Ukrainian. Makes him sound like a fucking character out of fucking Guy Ritchie, fucking cheesy fucking gangster flick. So it's Ukraine, not the Ukraine, and this is the Ukrainian, not the Ukrainian president. I figured that out. It's not prime minister, he's president. Playing the piano with his mate, with his dick. I mean, I thought I was like a bad man for misspeaking and saying he was on X Factor. Because I seen him in these, I heard reality TV and I seen him in his wee frilly thing, and I thought it was X Factor, only to find out it was Strictly Come Dancing. Then this shit pops up, man. Somebody told me about this. Right, so the reason I thought of that there is we stay in a world where people try and literally create your reality. Right, so Chicken Kiev is now all of a sudden turned into Kiev. What was I watching this morning? Oh my god, I can't. I had it on in the background. I was going to actually watch it today, but I might watch it tomorrow. Great Britain News, Nigel Vage's fucking channel, and they had this present. For some reason, they were sucking this guy's dick, calling him a sex symbol, and ooh, do you fancy him? What the fuck is going on here? Right, all the women saying that they fancy him and all that. Oh, he's so brave. He's doing the right thing. He's so brave. What the fuck? Wait, did you want to give fucking Saddam Hussein a blowjob when he went fucking tit for tat with the West? Did you want to give fucking Gaddafi one? He had all his fucking ninja sluts though. He was alright. But look, this is a Ukrainian president playing the piano with his dick. I'm deliberately keeping the... I know, Punk, what more could you want from a president? Apart from him doing the cha-cha-cha and all that, man. I've got this for... Hey, look at him there with the wee drawn on moustache and all that, man. And now he's bouncing about in between cha-cha-chas, fucking with a fucking military fucking t-shirt on. Fuck me. Right, now, I don't know the exact details if he's wanting to take the baton and run with this, but this guy, before he was president, had a production company, you know. It's a lot of sort of upcoming stars, let's say, manifest, you know. They have lots of money and lots of influence. And they can all of a sudden just pull money out their arse and produce something. Production company. Lottie's production company have now fucking went over and in the administration. Couldn't they make this shit up, man? Wag the dog. Couldn't they fucking do half a good job as fucking these motherfucking cowboys in Ukraine? And Joe Biden's son's over there fucking cutting about as well. But check him out, man. This is all a dirty show because of copyright and all that. And this guy's like the poster boy of fucking Great Britain News. No, the woman. Look at, check that out, man. Mate, you do carry out the Pink Panther poofy outfit. Definitely. But, there's Great Britain. Let's get back to the wee bit BBC's and then...
But the International Atomic Energy Agency have said the volume of cooling water at the plant is sufficient.
Someone should ask him if he's a comedian. He says, "Oh, we need a year for. Are you a comedian?" Boom, boom, boom. Well, he is. He used to be a professional comedian, so you should at least appreciate the comedy value in that.
Country and its very future under attack. The fighting
it's the guy with the hypnotic voice.
More routes announced for people to try and
Do you notice when something like this happens, all the books come out,
between Ukraine
and they're the only ones that are allowed to report?
Here are escaping heavy fighting to the west of Kiev, and whilst it will be seen as a positive that they can get out, it also feeds into a very deliberate tactic by the invading troops to lessen the city's appetite to fight back, as well as bombard it into submission.
He always.
In the current safety of central Kiev, this is what awaits some. Nights in the metro station
an MK Ultra
with confusion on where to go next.
We have 10 grandchildren, and thanks God, they are far from here. But of course, we were all together.
Open her up. There's more inside.
To be hungry, to be thirsty, but to see how our children die, it's impossible.
These temporary ceasefires are fragile. Tens of thousands of people are still stuck under heavy shelling without basic supplies in Mariupol. Humanitarian aid can't get in either. Moscow is accused of shelling the agreed routes.
The city is in total darkness. It's like a black,
yeah, you
scary,
want a room, hen? I'll put you up.
Then there is no heating because, of course,
only
it's,
for.
From
I think she's going to be good for.
No heating and no water because everything of the infrastructure was dead.
4 years, and then you need to go back.
There have been
I'm sending you back.
More than 5,000 people made it out of Sumy yesterday.
Bill?
The hope is more will follow today.
I'm
oh, fucking that Bridget Jones looking fucking woman. Keep her.
Shooting from 9 a.m. on the 9th of March 2022. We have a negative experience when the undertaken commitments were failed along the Mariupol, Zaporizhia and
Roberto might put you up, pen.
Ukrainian army chiefs claim the Russian advance has been slowed these last 24 hours. The worry remains, though, that they'll continue to surround key cities instead. As of now, some people are managing to escape, but many Ukrainians, like these in the central square of Kiev, have decided to stay.
Kiev?
House, BBC News.
Yay! Kiev!
James joins us now live from Kiev, and James, just a little bit of glimmer of hope there with those
What's happened with the memo to call it Kiev?
Corridors be breached and civilians face shelling for several days. But in the last 24 hours, it does look like people have been able to evacuate safely.
Yes, Yalda, we knew going into this that these humanitarian corridors
and he's getting the hypnotic voice.
Numerous attempts end in
try and stay awake, everybody. Did you see me yawning there because of this guy's voice?
We are continuing to see people successfully evacuated from Sumy in the northeast. So that's a continuation on from the 7,000 who
I've been up since the crack of dawn, man.
Yesterday. Equally in western Kiev, more of a mixed picture. We've
seen
people arrive at the station.
I don't know how that makes me so happy.
If you want to get a sense of the human impact of this war, you just need to hang around in the entrance to the station and see people reluctantly leaving homes. We saw a group of people arriving from Irpin, making use of the corridor from the town on the outskirts to central Kiev. They talked about trying to escape heavy shell fire, but not wanting to leave. A real bind for people when they were getting on trains westwards. Their eventual destination not really known, but there are other parts of western Kiev on the outskirts where people haven't been able to get out. They've been trapped.
This guy hasn't got the memo, man. Mate, you are, and so you're going to get into trouble.
And then we get to the dire humanitarian situation in Mariupol in the southeast. Another day where both people can't get out, escape, continued heavy shelling there. People who are running low on basic supplies for many days now. People who can't get out. And equally, humanitarian aid can't get in along an agreed route. Moscow is again accused of shelling that very route. So it's very much a mixed picture. But yes, we are seeing a continuation of people being able to escape this war as it goes into its third week.
James, just bring us up to date on the situation in Chernobyl, because we're hearing some worrying reports of the power being severed and that potentially being quite risky.
Potentially being quite risky.
We learned about a week ago that the Chernobyl nuclear power plant had fallen into Russian control for a
Right, devil's in the detail here, right? Because they can't like tell lies, but what they can do is spin and tell you fucking bullshit. So a week ago we knew that it fell into Russian hands.
A lot of people watching, that will be a triggering name. It's the scene of the worst nuclear power disaster ever.
For a lot of people watching, it'll be a triggering name. That's why we're taking advantage. That's why you're taking advantage of it, innit? Chernobyl, Chernobyl. People get flashbacks to fucking iodine pills and fucking nuclear clouds coming over Europe and all that. Just what the West want. It's absolutely shameless how these motherfuckers are Machiavellian enough to scare you shitless. You know, whether this was a real caller or not, I don't know. When was this? Was it this morning on the Mike Graham fucking radio show or something? One of the callers called in and went, I'm suffering from insomnia. An old woman, scared shitless, terrified, having nightmares over the fucking poor people of Ukraine. She didn't lose any sleep over the brown people in Iraq, Syria, and Libya for some reason. I don't know why.
In 1986, so it's currently contained. The nuclear reactors are under 24/7 control. Now we understand.
So it's currently contained. It's under 24/7 hour control. Chernobyl. So everything's fine, baby. There's no question about anything.
And that the staff were able to continue working there. We think.
Okay, so the Russians allowed the staff to still work there. That's good. So the people who knew what they were doing are still there, doing what they know what they're doing, and they're doing what they know what they're doing, and they're doing what they're doing what they're doing. Right. So where's the problem, Baldy?
I think that is still the case, but in the Russian advance, a power cable was damaged.
Oh my lord, the power cable was damaged. Now let's investigate this. Could this possibly be saboteurs? I have no idea. But again, pro bono. You don't need to pay me nothing. Q Bono. Hello Bono, I need you. I'm going to queue you up, alright? Q Bono. Get it right this time. Q Bono, right? Ask yourself that question.
So say the Ukrainian authorities, and they were worried that that power cut would lead to a nuclear waste heating up. But the global watchdog has, if I can use a pun, called such concerns, saying that because of the amount of time since 1986, it's not likely to overheat to a dangerous extent where more radioactive material could be released into the atmosphere. But it is a delicate situation because if you just go to the
okay, so there's no risk according to the experts.
The south,
but it's delicate.
To the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the biggest in Europe. It's a
right. So straight away we've went from the experts saying there's nothing to worry about, absolutely fuck all to worry about. We're now flying to the biggest nuclear power station in Europe, where there was a fire.
Supplies Ukraine with a sizable chunk of its energy. That is also in Russian control. A fire also broke out there when Russian forces advanced. Staff.
Oh, fire also broke out there.
We understand are being allowed to stay there and do their jobs, but it's causing further worries on top of a deeply concerning advance that we are seeing from the north and south in Ukraine.
It's causing further worries for who? We've just heard from the experts who said there's fucking nothing to worry about for Chernobyl. And we just watched Russia Today with that guy bouncing about fucking that power station that you're now talking about, showing you that everything's fucking dandy. It was a firefight between the two opposing sides. Russia won in a building on the outskirts, a good distance away from any of the reactors, went in fire. This is why they've banned Russia Today, because they will show you the other side, and because they have got access to behind the Russian lines and they are fucking Russian, banned by the Russian state, they do get access to all these power stations and stuff. And of course, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it is a big set green screen fucking some sort of a VR fucking... I don't think so. Q Bono. Oh, need to get a picture of Bono.
James, thank you so much for that update there from Kiev and bringing us the latest from across the country. That's our correspondent James Waterhouse reporting.
Thank
there.
you,
Well,
Hypno
as James
Man.
was saying, if you really want to understand the humanitarian impact of this conflict, just go to the train station.
Just go to any Western news organisation. Just go to the train station and adopt a fucking Kievian. Oh no, a Kievian! A Kievian! That's what they must call citizens of Kiev. Because you can't call it Kiev anymore, so they're Kiev! Key! You need to get the right key. Key! You need to be in fucking Strictly Come Dancing like the Prime Minister to get it right.
30 years. We're also seeing many companies, international companies, close their outlets in Russia. Companies like McDonald's, for example, Starbucks. Andy Verity has the very latest.
Oh my god, how are Russians going to survive without Big Macs and fucking overpriced coffee?
Outlets close their doors while the war's on.
I like this food.
McDonald's decision in 1990 to open its first outlet on
Red Square got a Big Mac for you, hen.
The end of the Cold War. At the time, a Big Mac could cost the average Russian half their daily wage.
I'm switching these
followed
snitches.
from Coca-Cola to Heineken, but now they're stopping sales to Russia.
No, what they're going to do, who cares, is they're just going to eat lots more chicken Kievs.
For ordinary Russians, Putin's war in Ukraine has thrown a
Because I think there'll be an over.
brands like Starbucks into.
Is that no pathetic? Is that no like a pure, like? See if that's the thing that breaks. See if that's the straw that breaks the back of Russia. Like we survived the thousands dead, the hundreds if not thousands dead of servicemen and stuff. But you took away our Big Macs. No.
Impact is the US decision to stop importing Russian oil immediately. Britain is only phasing it out by the end of this year.
Roberto, maybe about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, and one of the odd occasions as I found myself in I can't remember if it was Farm Foods or fucking Iceland, and I've spotted fucking crispy pancakes, man. And I hadn't had them in fucking about 10 years. They were alright, man. I think they were better back in the day when processed food was just exploding. Being a young boy stroke. Man! Your cooking skills. You thought cooking was heating up a crispy pancake. And you would still get them frozen in the fucking middle. Ah, shite! Fuck it, I need a new fucking moose.
To ensure that we honour that legacy of those girls in that factory in Dudleyport 100 years ago. And the one way that my right friend can do that for my community in Tipton is to come to Tipton, Mr. Speaker, and see that beating heart of the...
Mr. Speaker.
That very route. So
oh no,
the biggest in Europe.
The country that's our.
It's very simple. Every penny paid to Russia turns into bullets and shells, which are directed at other sovereign states. Either Russia will respect international law and will not wage wars, or it will not have the money to start wars.
What will have more than a symbolic impact is the US
mental
decision
man.
to stop
That little
importing Russian
fucking
oil
Strictly Come
immediately.
Dancing fucking
Britain is only
reality
phasing it out by the end
TV
of
star
this year,
is now
but many
telling the whole
multinationals are in
world
any
what
case
the
saying they're
fuck to do
refusing
and
to
who
buy
to
Russian
fucking
oil.
fight.
Crude oil is
Aye,
already
start
up
World War
65%
fucking.
since the start
You
of the
stick
year.
to fucking
And because
dancing,
Ukraine's
you
wheat
fucking
exports are
prancy
disrupted,
little
the price
prick.
of wheat's up 56%, and wholesale gas prices are up 173%.
So even though the UK imports only a small amount of oil, it's going to be competing with other countries for supplies of oil now, and the price is probably a better than even chance that it's going to break new records as the implications of these coordinated bans on Russian crude from the US and the UK recalibrate through the markets.
After the government banned Aeroflot and all Russian-owned private jets from landing in British airspace, a plane at Farnborough Airfield suspected of violating that ban was impounded.
We need to stem the flow of Putin's income, his blood money, whether that comes from gas or oil or anything else, from funding his war machine, and that's what we're determined to do.
While Russian imports are only 8% of the crude oil we use, they're 18%.
Right, so this is a good example of, I suppose, what you would call a soft power. And some would argue Britain has some of the biggest soft power in the world, which is obviously like a hangover for like British Empire in the old days and whatnot. Oh my god, look, she looks like Meeper.
Russia.
Meeper for the Muppets.
I think your average Russian is going to find it difficult not to see that things are changing here. It's not just that those Western brands are pulling out. It's also that they're starting to see prices going up. Some supermarkets limiting the amount that people can buy. But you're right, we're really yet, I think, to see the deep economic.
They brought down the Soviet Union before using economic measures, didn't they?
These sanctions really kick in. The Kremlin is doing.
And
its
that's
best
when they
to
promised
try and
NATO
mitigate the
wouldn't
effects of
expand
some of the
west.
sanctions so far. So, for example, we've not seen the Moscow Stock Exchange
pigeon shit
trading
heat.
today. The Kremlin has also cracked down on people who have bank accounts for foreign currency. They're limiting the amount of money that people can take out. There's no doubt, though, that the Kremlin is in pretty bullish form. It's accused America of waging economic war on Russia, which is an interesting turn of phrase.
No shit, Sherlock.
But as you know, the Kremlin has sought to stop journalists using that word war when it comes to describing Russia's activities in
Well, that's
Ukraine.
not true. I listened to
and we heard
RT
from
this
the
morning and
spokesman
they
there
used
that
that
the
word a
Kremlin is
few times.
currently, analysing was the word, analysing President Biden's decision to stop buying oil from Russia before it responds. We do expect a response. The Kremlin has been saying it will impose counter-sanctions. Vladimir Putin now wants, we understand, to ban or to block the export of raw materials from Russia, but we don't really know exactly what he's got in mind, and we're told the Kremlin hasn't quite decided how that will work and which countries it will affect, so we'll have to wait and see what details we get on that.
Well, I used to like the
narrative
was
from
it
the Kremlin
chicken
is
and
simply that, we expected these
ham and-
sanctions, we're prepared for them, and we're going to do
It's
our
like
best
cream
to make sure
inside,
that
cream and
Russians
ham,
aren't-
cream and
aren't
chicken or
hit by
something.
them. For example, today
Roberto.
the Kremlin spokesman was asked, what about,
It depended how they were cooked. See, if they were fried, they were always soggy, you know what I mean? I think you had to grill
and he
them.
said, well, we hope it's not going to be millions, but, we've got a headquarters set up to deal with that. That's what they like to do here, set up a headquarters, if you like, a task force to deal with each of those problems. So the word from the Kremlin is very much at the moment, don't worry, we've got this in hand.
I've got some Hunter's chicken in there,
when
man.
those economic sanctions really start to affect
And
people's
mini
lives,
chicken
it's going to be very
Kievs.
interesting to see what the narrative
Not even
is.
joking.
The suspicion
Bernard
here,
Matthews.
of course, is that people will simply be told via state media that this is
Kids'
just
food.
another example of Western aggression against Russia, in retaliation for what Russia says is Russia trying to simply protect its own interests by going into what it calls its special military operation in Ukraine.
Okay, Jenny, thanks so much for that update there from the situation in Moscow.
Thank you, Praying Mantis.
Well, as we've been reporting here in Ukraine, the fighting has forced more than 2 million people to flee their home over the last few weeks. Refugees have been making their way to neighboring countries. They've been heading mostly to Poland, for example, where hundreds of thousands of people have arrived. And the majority of the countries that have been bordering Ukraine, like
did
Hungary,
show you
Moldova,
that some of them are going to
Slovakia, Poland, they've all welcomed these refugees.
Belarus and Russia.
These internally displaced people have also gone to Hungary. Well, joining me now is former UK Foreign Secretary and now head of the International Rescue Committee, David Miliband. Mr. Miliband, thank you very much for joining us here on
These
the
people
programme.
just don't disappear, you know. You think you've got rid of them because they've got voted out and they've not won an election, and that they pop up everywhere. Do you know who popped up today? Nick Clegg.
Yes,
He works for
good to be with you. I think that the 5 or 6
Meta,
million figure
the Facebook's parent company.
2 weeks ago will be reached in the next few weeks. But remember,
he was
continent of 500 million
talking to the news
and
because Facebook has been kicked out of Russia or banned in Russia.
Their kids will be able to go to school,
Which is
and they will be able to
scandalous, of
work.
course.
And so
But
your voice
RT
should
gets blocked
highlight
over
the
here, and it's all good.
challenge
Nobody
for
bats an
Europe, but it's a
eyelid.
manageable challenge. Far more life-threatening is the situation inside Ukraine, as you've been reporting. And so it's not just the 2 million people
I just
on
don't
the move
apply the
who've left
golden
country,
ratio
it's
with
the
that
many
cunt's
millions
face.
inside the country who are leaving their own towns and
One ear's
cities
down here,
for
and one
safety.
ear's
And obviously,
fucking.
there's a massive humanitarian concern.
One ear's
about people
one
inside the
ear's
country
looking
as
at
well
the
as about
sky,
their
one
treatment and
ear's
the
looking
appropriate
at his
treatment of
pie.
refugees who arrive in Europe.
How concerned are you about the people stuck in places like Mariupol? We're hearing just the most disturbing, horrific stories of bodies lying dead in the streets, people hiding in bunkers away from the shelling without any heating. I mean, it's absolutely freezing here at the moment.
Yes, you're absolutely right to highlight the position of besieged cities. This is a tactic that's obviously been used throughout history. In recent European history, it was used in Sarajevo, in the Balkans.
Oh, right, so it's not just a putler fucking woke up in the middle of the night, said I've got cancer and a moon face, so I'm going to kill innocent civilians. It's a tactic. Shouldn't be saying that. Whatever your face is, Miliband.
In the 1990s, we've seen the denial of aid as an increasing tactic of parties to war around the world, in Yemen, in Ethiopia, in northeast Nigeria.
Oh, don't mention Yemen. Shh.
Now it seems, in Ukraine. And this is where...
Oh, right, so where was every cunt man to adopt a fucking Yemeni? Funny that, eh? There wasn't fucking droves of fucking people fucking almost close to tears on daytime TV talking about the poor Yemeni people. Oh, adopt them now. Quick, get the phone lines and start fucking saving up money to adopt them. And what a load of pish, insincere, virtue signalling fucking bullshit. Because it's fucking people with blonde hair and blue eyes that's fucking getting slaughtered this time. Fucking insincere motherfuckers.
The greatest danger on the humanitarian side is going to lie. People trapped inside cities, in the cold, potentially with their electricity cut off. And the besiegement of cities is clearly a violation of international law. There's an international legal right to civilians not just to avoid targeting from military combatants, but also to have access.
Made in Britain, the Yemeni fucking war's a good example of how it's one rule for them, one rule for them.
To humanitarian aid, and organisations like the International Rescue Committee working with
Oven bake his best, mate, but my oven doesn't have a window in it, so it's dodgy to try and keep the shit in the middle. Too little, still frozen. Too much, spews it. It's a hard line, man. It's a hard line.
with the United Nations and others, will be working around the clock to try to ensure that aid does reach besieged communities. It's a not just a human right, it's a legal and international right.
Yeah, and let's talk about the humanitarian corridors, which of course were violated. Civilians were saying they were being shelled, but in the last 24 hours, we know that there's been some positive development where several thousand people were taken out of places like Sumi, for example, in the northeast of the country. How closely are you working now with the various different parties to ensure that there are other corridors and that these corridors continue to remain open for civilians to get out?
Well, I really want to warn about the danger of doublespeak in the discussion of corridors. Of course, or so-called humanitarian corridors. Of course, it's right that civilians should be able to leave, but we have extensive experience, including most recently last week in the Ukraine crisis, of civilians being offered so-called corridors that are in fact corridors to nowhere, or worse. They are either targeted or they're invited, in this case, to go to Belarus or to Russia. In the case of the Syria crisis, a similar rhetoric around humanitarian corridors, so-called, was used, and it was used to herd Syrians into the northwest of the country where they remain besieged. So I think it's very, very important that the appropriate authorities are party to these negotiations. We're not party to the negotiations. They're between the Ukrainians and the Russians. I think the UN should be involved, but there needs to be appropriate recognition of the limits of these corridors, because they're being bandied around as if they are a easy solution. They're not.
Yeah, and just tell us a little bit more about that experience in Syria and the comparisons here to Ukraine, because many commentators have expressed very similar concerns.
Russia handed the West
in
their
the Syria
ass.
conflict, I mean, obviously Syria is a country about half the population size of Ukraine. It's a population of 23 million. But what we know is that fighting in Damascus, fighting in Daraa, fighting in Aleppo, humanitarian corridors were established where essentially anyone was herded into the northwest of the country, into Idlib province. Now there are 3.5 million people in Idlib province. 1.5 million of them are the internally displaced who've been availed themselves of humanitarian corridors to avoid shelling. And of course, there are two aspects of this that are absolutely vital. First of all, the shelling of civilian buildings, including hospitals, that's been going on in Syria, but also now in the Ukraine crisis, is completely contrary to humanitarian law and to international law. The second aspect is then the denial of rights to civilians and the herding of them into then besieged areas is itself an enormous challenge to basic humanity. And so I think it's very, very important that we do learn from this experience. Civilians do need a way out, but aid also needs a way in. And above all, the rights of civilians to live in peace needs to be respected. And so the calls from the UN Secretary General and others for ceasefires are absolutely fundamental to this discussion.
Why would you need a ceasefire? The Ukrainian army's winning.
Thank you, Yalda.
Beating them in the fields, in the trenches, in the trees,
as we've been saying,
in the
tens of thousands of
supermarkets.
people have been making their way to western Ukraine, to Lviv, and
right. Well, that's the top of the hour. That's a wee bit of Prime Minister's questions flung in there as well, because that's always worth a watch. So make sure you thumbs it up if you do enjoy having a wee bit of a view from all round. Tomorrow I think I might do Great Britain news. See how long I survive. Shout that. I watched that this morning, man, and they're, oh my god, war hungry. Anyway, you know, they hate the brown refugees, but see if the white Ukrainian ones, oh fucking hell, get them in here quick smart. You're not doing enough. Brown ones, get them to fuck. That Great Britain news is shameless, man. Roberto, who cares in the afternoon, gents, and everybody that's watched. As I said, man, appreciate it. Thumbs up. Punks on the whiskey, Rab in the evening, guys and girls, and Dave was in earlier as well. Mick Mac, Carletta A from Oz was in as well, so thank everybody who's joined. That's all for just now. What days it today? Wednesday, Thursday, tomorrow. So, like, tune in tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. I'll be doing the same again. So, thanks everybody for watching. Catch you tomorrow. Clips. Turn stereo, motherfuckers. Remember, the only way to survive and thrive is to subscribe and hit the bell in $19.95. Plus shipping and handling. We'll keep you out of hell. Catch you.